Somewhere along the way, you decided you're just not a disciplined person. You've watched other Christians. They can hold a morning routine. They can hold their prayer life together year after year. You just concluded they've got something that you don't. I want to spend some time in the next few minutes showing you that that whole sentence is built on a wrong definition. Because in Scripture, discipline is not a personality trait, and it's not a moral grade. It's a capacity, and capacities can be built. The word itself is going to do most of the work for us today because disciple and discipline are the same word. That's not just a fancy pun, it's the actual history of the language. And once you see it, I don't think you're going to be able to unsee it. Let's start by clearing the ground, because when Christians hear the word discipline, one of two pictures usually walks into the door with it. The first picture is the drill sergeant. Discipline, white knuckles, 4 a.m. alarms, self-denial for its own sake. This is the version the productivity world sells you, where the disciplined man is the one who conquers himself by force and gets to be quietly proud of it. And I want to be careful here because I have lived inside of that picture myself, and I can tell you from the inside, it runs on willpower, and it runs out of willpower, and it does not build godliness. What it builds is a more impressive version of whatever you already were. I spent years disciplining myself towards self-mastery before I knew Jesus, and the discipline was real, and unfortunately it was aimed at nothing. The second picture is the opposite one, and it's more common in the church than many of us would like to admit. The suspicion that discipline is somehow opposed to grace. That somehow all this structure is just legalism waiting to happen. That if I set a schedule for prayer or if I train myself with the word, that I've started trying to earn my salvation. And we don't earn our salvation, so better not to build anything at all. Just love Jesus, live your life, and let it all happen. And that can sound humble, but let's look at what that is actually assuming under the surface. That grace and effort are enemies. Scripture never says that. Scripture, in fact, says the opposite of that. Scripture says that grace and earning are enemies. Effort is commanded on nearly every page of the Old Testament and the New Testament. Strive, run, train, put on, take up, hold fast. Grace is what your effort stands on, not what it competes with. So neither picture survives contact with Scripture. Discipline in Scripture isn't force, and it isn't a threat to grace. It's something else. And the word itself, discipline, tells you what. Now here's the etymology. Both words come from the same Latin root, discipulus, a learner, a student, someone who's put himself under a teacher. Disciplina is simply what the learner receives and lives under, the teaching itself, the training, the whole shape of a life that forms around following a master. A disciple is a person. A discipline is what that person's life looks like. Which means being a disciple was never just a matter of what you believe. It's a matter of whose training you're under. When Jesus says, "Follow me," he's not collecting people who agree with him. He's taking on students, the way a rabbi took on students. Men who walked everywhere he walked and ate where he ate, and slowly, over the years, they had their whole manner of living reshaped by their proximity to his. So when a Christian says, "I'm just not a disciplined person," listen to what that sentence is actually claiming. It's claiming an exemption from the thing that the word disciple means. And I don't say that to shame anybody. I say it because it's the best news in this whole video. You're not missing a personality trait. You're a student who has never shown the training. Those are completely different problems, and only one of them is fixable. Thinking about discipline as a trait will lead you to a verdict about yourself. But thinking about discipline as training is an invitation. And Scripture only ever invites you into that discipline. Now, when you take that word discipline into the Bible, you're going to find it doing two different jobs. And I think half the confusion that Christians carry about discipline comes from blurring them together. The first sense is the discipline God exercises on us. Hebrews 12 is a great text here. The Lord disciplines the one he loves. And the writer of Hebrews' whole point is that this is what a father does for a son he intends to raise. It's not punishment for its own sake, and it's certainly not rejection. For the moment, all discipline seems painful rather than pleasant, but later it yields the peaceful fruit of righteousness to those who have been trained by it. Trained. There's our word again. Even correction from God has training shape, and it's headed somewhere, and we both know where. The second sense is the disciplines that we keep, the deliberate, repeated things that a believer builds into life so that grace has somewhere to land. Paul hands Timothy the sharpest version of it. Train yourself for godliness. And he's using the athletic word, the gymnasium word. Paul reached for the most physical, repetitive, the most unglamorous image that his world had. Nobody in the first century gymnasium was having an experience. They were doing the same movements over and over until their bodies changed. And here's why you need both of those senses, both of those meanings of the word discipline, on the table at once. If you only have the first meaning, God disciplines me, you go passive. You wait for him to do to you what he's told you to train toward. You put it all on God. If you only have the second sense of the meaning of that word, the disciplines that you keep, and it's all going to go back to willpower and your grip on yourself again. But here's the thing. Scripture holds both of those senses together. You train, and he trains you. You do the reps, he does the changing in your body and in your heart. So if discipline is a capacity and not a trait, then it obeys the rules that capacities obey. And anybody who's ever trained their body for a sport, for lifting, for just fitness, they already know how this works. The first rule is that small and daily beats big and occasional every time. 5 minutes of discipline every day will build more in you than 40 minutes on a good Saturday once a month. And that's not just a spiritual claim, that's just how adaptation works. Frequency builds capacity. The honest word really is adaptation, not motivation. Nobody talked your body into getting stronger. It adapted to what you kept doing with it. And your soul's habits work under the same mercy from God. What you keep returning to is what you become shaped by. The second rule is that failure is the rep. This is the one that nobody talks about. When you set yourself toward any discipline, prayer, the word, lifting weights, any of it, you're going to wander off quickly and constantly, and everything in you will read the wandering away as proof that you're not cut out for this. They'll read it as, you're going to read it as failure. But that's not the truth. It's the opposite. The moment you notice that you've drifted away and come back, that moment right there, that is the training. Not staying in it, but returning to it. You don't build this capacity for discipline with 100 flawless minutes at a time. You build it one return at a time, one rep at a time, out of what feels like hundreds of failures. And the third rule is the one that separates Christian discipline from every self-improvement program wearing its clothes. You build it, and you do not build it alone. And what it produces was never yours to produce. You plant the garden, you water it, and God gives the growth. That farmer in that picture works, genuinely, daily. And not one thing growing in his field is his doing. That is the grace that is underneath everything I'm saying today. The training earns you nothing. It was never supposed to. It positions you. It puts you in front of him in the place where he has promised to meet his people day after day. And what he does in you there on his schedule, by his grace and by his kindness is his. He does the transformation. You keep the discipline. He gives the growth. Now, at this point, the practical question is which discipline? Because you've seen lists. Prayer, scripture, fasting, service, solitude. All these things are real and good. But let me tell you where I would start. And what underlies all of these things is your ability to hold your mind on one thing and bring it back when it wanders. Prayer does this, reading does this, resisting temptation does this, being present does this. But this discipline, whose entire job it is to train that underlying capacity, it's commanded in Joshua, it's blessed in the very first Psalm, and it's meditation. And before that word takes you somewhere strange, here's exactly what I mean when I say meditation. Meditation is really, truly as simple as this. You keep your mind and attention fully on one thing and return your attention to it when you inevitably get distracted. The thing that we keep our mind on is God and His Word. And that's the whole discipline of meditation. When I say meditation, Christian meditation, biblical meditation, scriptural meditation, whatever you want to call it, that is the discipline. That is what God is talking about in Scripture when He says meditation. It's not complicated. It's just keeping your mind on one thing, which is why it's the keystone. If you train here, if you train yourself to meditate, you're not adding one more item to the list. You're building a capacity that all of those disciplines can draw upon. In the 7 years that I have meditated daily, that has been the pattern. The other disciplines get easier in the seasons that I never work on them directly because I'm working on the thing that's underneath all of them, making all of them stronger. Here's where I want to leave you today. Take that sentence, "I'm not a disciplined person," and retire it. Throw it away. It's never been a fact about you. It's never been a verdict about you. And it was never built on Scripture. You're a disciple. The training is the life. And training starts smaller than you think it's allowed to. One short passage of Scripture, 5 minutes, tomorrow morning, returning gently every time your mind runs off, which it will, because I've been doing this for 7 years every day, and my mind still runs off every single time I meditate. It's just the way it works. If you do that daily for a month, 5 minutes every morning, you will know more about Christian discipline from the inside than this video could ever tell you. And through all of it, keep the order straight, because the order is the gospel in all of this. He called you before you ever trained for a single day. He'll be at work in you long after the timer goes off. And the discipline you build is just you showing up again and again in the place where He gives what only He can give. If you want to learn the method itself, I've got another video I'll give you a link. How it teaches you the basics of how to meditate on Scripture. Before you go, everything I'm doing here is to help you draw near to God and meet Him in His Word. If that's what your heart is after, please subscribe and come with me. And at restoringmeditation.com, you'll find structured guides and teachings to help you build this discipline into your life. It's all free. Come check it out. Thank you for watching, and God bless you.